Ever since the release of Super Mario 64, the 3D platforming genre has continued to gain momentum and sometimes evolve, but many games in the genre have still struggled to top it. Sure, some have had better graphics, tried to throw in different features to differentiate themselves, and more, but when you come out of the gate with a banger, the impression that it leaves can be hard to shake. Not so different than the likes of the original Doom, several titles from the Legend of Zelda series, and other genre-defining icons. It's wild when games that are sometimes decades old are still the bar to be measured against. Ruffy and the Riverside, to its credit, does attempt to throw in at least one novel idea of its own with Ruffy's swappability, but that's still not enough to compensate for some of its shortcomings. There's no question that this is a platformer very much inspired by that Nintendo 64 era, something you'll immediately notice when the game loads up. While its characters and geometry being more primitive is one similarity, the vibrant colors and more cheery vibe of everything is also impossible to miss. For people who miss the more innocent simplicity of that era, to an extent this is a title that also embraces elements of that. There aren't an abundance of moves to learn, and outside of the pretty extensive use of your swapping ability, for the most part it isn't a very taxing game, as the platforming more often than not tends to be on the easier side. All that said, there are some areas of concern. It turns out that it's a good thing the platforming remains quite light, mainly because I'd characterize the controls as being more on the loose side. Ruffy has an over-enthusiastic feel, making precision a challenge, but thankfully it usually isn't an issue. Where the game can be more frustrating is when it comes to some of its puzzles relying on the swap mechanic, and how at times everything feels a bit more complicated and cumbersome than it should need to be. It all ultimately works. I just wish that sometimes what you're trying to copy and why would be more clear, as trial and error sometimes won the day over logic. I think what frustrated me the most in my playtime, though, was the complete lack of planning and design when it comes to the game world. It feels like pretty well every inch of real estate is tied to some challenge or puzzle somehow, making it all feel crammed together haphazardly, without any real regard to flow or progression. If nothing else, that makes the job of a completionist a nightmare, as you could easily miss or accidentally skip a puzzle or two as you try to plow your way through. Taking it all into account, in many regards this isn't a bad game, but it would be hard not to point out ways that it comes up short in meeting its potential. The bones of a better game are here, but it feels like either a lack of proper time to refine and test were thrown aside, or perhaps just a lack of more experience on the part of the team held it back. I could have done without quite so much dialogue that honestly often didn't accomplish much, and that may have ended up making this a less kid-friendly title by failing to keep things simpler and more intuitive. Still, for genre fans, and especially people who would love to get a reminder of platforming in simpler days, this may be a great nostalgia bomb of sorts. Overall, my final score for the game ended up being a 7. And if you're interested in picking it up, it's currently available on the Switch eShop for $19.99. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this review. And if you'd like more information or ideas of indie games worth checking out on the Switch or the Switch 2, be sure to click on the link provided in the description. Until next time,